Hi, everyone. I'm Dominic Ramos, and this is Scrub Talk. Before we get into today's episode, I want to be honest with you about something. For the longest time, I've carried this belief that most healthcare managers just don't get it. That unless you've actually been inside the system, and I mean doing wound care, cleaning bedpans, holding people's hands in some of their roughest moments, getting bashed by caregivers and patients, you're not really qualified to run it. I know how that sounds, and I'm not going to fully walk it back either. But I want to tell you about the moment that belief became somewhat complicated. A few years ago, I was working in surgical oncology, and I was starting to experience burnout, starting to wonder if any of this was worth it. At the time, I'd come back to school to finish my bachelor's, and I remember sitting in one of my first management courses, just feeling like nobody in that room understood what it actually felt like. One of my classmates had made a comment about how doctors just don't care, how they treat patients like numbers. And then all of a sudden, this woman spoke up. She started by sharing her experience about how she had felt dismissed as a patient. And from that point on, I had just tuned her out. I'll be honest, I had her in my crosshairs. I thought to myself, here we go, another hot take that I need to correct. And then she pivoted by acknowledging that her experience shouldn't be used to characterize the whole profession. She acknowledged that doctors and nurses, everyone on the front lines and behind the scenes, are under enormous pressure. And that pressure is changing the way that we deliver care in this country. And the way she said that kind of made the whole room stop and think instead of just react. Her name was Maureen Leahey. And I remember thinking, okay, this one's different. Maureen and I don't agree on everything. Our backgrounds are different. Our faith is different. Our politics are different. But she has this ability to hold her own point of view while still making space for yours. Diplomatic without being soft. Disarming without being a pushover. And in a field where I've spent years feeling like I was going to have to do this all by myself, that matters more than I can really say. This episode is personal to me because I got to interview one of my good friends and someone who I really admire and look up to. And I hope you feel that way when you listen. A note before we start. In this episode, Maureen and I talk openly about her experience with intimate partner violence. If that's something you're currently navigating or have experienced yourself, please take care of yourself if you decide to listen. It's okay to step away. And it's definitely okay to skip this one entirely. I mean that. No hard feelings. This is Maureen Leahey. Maureen Leahey. Welcome to Scrub Talk.
Thanks, Dominic Ramos.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing super. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I know you just got off work. How was work?
It was a very long day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you taking the time to sit with me and have a discussion. I prepared a little something for you because if you know me pretty well, I have to embarrass the heck out of you by telling bragging about you to pretty much all our listeners. So okay. I'm going to read this out. Tell me if this tracks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Maureen Leahey, she is an undergraduate student in the School of Continuing and Professional Studies at the University of Virginia. Wahoo-wah. Right.
Yep.
She's pursuing a Bachelor of Professional Studies in Health Science Management.
She is a highly accomplished who, serving as the peer mentor for the Bachelor of Professional Studies in Health Science Management degree program at UVA. She's also a member of the University Judiciary Committee, a member of the Beta Iota Sigma chapter of the Alpha Sigma Lambda something honor society.
National Honor Society.
Yeah, for non-traditional and for non-traditional college and university students. She's also a recipient of the Alpha Sigma Lambda National Honor Society Scholarship. Outside of school, Maureen is a full-time auditor for Centera Health. She is a full-time mom, and more importantly, one of my good friends.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you.
I think you left something off. Dominic.
No, wait, no, I'll get to that. Just give me a second. I have a question for you. Do you think you have enough on your plate?
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Like, have you considered world domination? Taking over a small third world country? How in the world do you do all that?
I don't know. I just wake up and, start the day. Thank God for letting me open my eyes and just put my feet on the ground and piss off the devil because I'm awake and then just go to it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. That's a very well-decorated answer. But I am concerned about you because you have like so much going on. Like that can affect your mental health, Maureen. And
is this an intervention, Dominic?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
And I can tell you with almost full certainty, full confidence as a man, by the way, who has received an A in women's health. And I'm also certified in mental health first aid, by the way. I think you've got way too much going on.
Are you trying to mansplain my life to me?
I have no idea what mansplaining is. I personally do not. Oh my gosh. All that's a joke, by the way. I hope no one really thinks that. I'm trying to mansplain to you. But I'm really curious. What is your why?
Oh, man. Wow. Well, world domination, I guess.
Yeah.
No. I mean, there's a lot of depth to the why. Which part of the why are we talking about? Why am I developed the way that I am to keep pushing in some inhumane way because I'm working full time. I'm a single mother and I'm also highly successful at school and also a member of the Raven Society.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh, how could I forget that you are a member of the highly coveted and secret, the most select group of university students, the Raven Society.
That's why I had to whisper it.
I know. Oh yeah, because it's like
it's semi-secret.
Oh yeah, it's like a secret society that also has a public website.
Right.
I'm curious, what was your initiation into the Raven Society like?
It was very interesting. There's only so much I can explain about it because it is lock and key. You can't really talk about,
the
actual ceremony itself, but it's very Edgar Allan Poe in the spirit and the essence of Edgar Allan Poe. Everything that you could possibly imagine. It was really cool. I felt like I was a 20-year-old college student and not a 50-year-old college student. And it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of, being a college student, what was it like getting inducted as you're pretty young still, but not as, your traditional college student. Like, were there other people who were in their 40s and 50s getting inducted or?
So there was, I didn't check his age, but there was somebody else older.
Okay.
And I believe he just graduated last weekend. And he was also inducted, I think. But there's also, like, with the Raven Society, you can be inducted when you're an alumni because it's, like, based on also the contributions that you're doing for the community. So there's a lot of people. And then sometimes I think also professors are brought into the Raven Society. So it's pretty cool. It's a really good recognition. Like, I think the first time you told me about it, way back, like in 22, we were talking about these different secret clubs. Then you told me about the Raven Society, and like, no way, there's actually something for Edgar Allan Poe here. And then I looked it up. I'm like, oh, so I put it on my kind of like a sticky note that I have on my my monitor at work, just so I can have it kind of like in my line of sight, almost like a visualization board. And I knew like once I achieved the National Honor Society recognition, I was just like waiting, holding my breath almost, waiting for that call from the Raven Society. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
How'd that feel?
It was awesome. Like, the thing that's funny is I didn't, like, when the person called me, it wasn't a recognized number. And usually I don't answer numbers I don't recognize because it's, typically spam or whatever. And so when I answered, I was a little bit not so nice because, I don't know who's on the other end. And then when she told me who she was and ran through the spiel, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Are you actually telling me that I've been like asked to go and be a member of the Raven Society? And she said, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to cry. This is so amazing. So yeah, it was cool. It was humbling, exciting. Yeah.
I want you to answer the question I asked you first before you had to tell everyone about you being a member of a secret society. Jeez, dude.
Well, my why is like, it's a lot. It's not only for doing what's right, to raise my daughter and to give everything, every opportunity for her. As a single mom, it's a little bit of a struggle sometimes. When, like, how are things going to add up at the end of the day with paying bills and making sure food's on the table? So part of my why is definitely for my daughter so that she has every opportunity possible, to be a successful adult. But it's also for me. Like for school, I think this has been more of a healing journey than I've realized that was actually going to happen. Initially, when I applied to UVA, it was essentially to get my degree so I could move up. That's the other part of the why, is to move up in the workplace. However high that goes, I'm not really too sure. And over the years, like, I've seen that my skills can also be applied maybe as a college professor one day back in the BPHM program, or the BIS. I think they've shifted it to the BIS healthcare specific program. And then maybe one day like publishing 2 books, and then using that platform to be a public speaker. So yeah, just tell my story, I guess, is another part of the why. And I'm never settled or satisfied. I always want to be doing something, whether it's improving my life or helping other people, achieve their potential. So
I wanted to add one more thing to that really extensive list of accolades you have there. This past spring in April, you were recognized by the UPCEA. It's the University Professional and Continuing Education Association. You were recognized as the Outstanding Student of the Year for 2026 at their national conference in New Orleans. How did that make you feel?
Stunned. I think I'm still processing it. If you would have told me 4 years ago that I would have gotten into my all-time favorite college and university ever since I was in high school, I would probably say that you're lying. There's no way. How would I ever be able to get into UVA? And then going forward, to not only get all the recognition that I've received, but to stand in a national conference to receive an award with photographers and borderline professional paparazzi in the university circuit. And I say that laughing because every time I walk, because my face was in the, the magazine that we had for the conference. So I had people walking up to me that I've never seen before ever, like, oh my gosh, you're her. I'm like, hi, yeah, I'm me, yes. So it was a nice, I guess it was like a really good way to feel recognized, supported by the school. Like there was, I believe, 10 people from our program and UVA out to support, and then also to attend the conference for their, academic side.
Sorry. I don't mean to laugh, and I'll tell you why I'm laughing. So Maureen and I have been, oh my God, we have been in so many classes together. And I just think you have like the ultimate bragging rights just to say that out of all the students pretty much in our program, you're the most outstanding. And the reason why I say this is because in one of our classes last year, one of our classmates just had the audacity to introduce. We're already laughing about it. He just had the audacity to introduce himself as, yeah, I'm the poster child for this university, for this school. And I thought to myself, man, you cannot get any more humble. And now when we get in class with him, probably in the next semester or so, you get to say, I'm the most outstanding student in all of the country.
I mean, the thing that's funny is like, I didn't announce it because that's part of my, I guess, the humble nature of, I don't want to take away from other people. Like, I understand like that individual had his moment, but when you're working in a leadership world, you're supposed to step aside at some point and let other people have their moments. Like we have a lot of people in our program who've been featured in the UVA today, and it's amazing, to see students spotlighted, for whatever the reason is. So I let one of our professors know, like, hey, I'll be attending the UPCEA conference, so I may have to get a couple of days grace period for my assignments, and I'm not going to say who it was because I really like him. But he said, "What's UPCEA?" I'm like, "Oh no, okay, this is something you should probably know because you're, a teacher, a professor." So, yeah, I think there's obviously like certain professors who want to brag about me like I'm his own daughter, if like that's probably a bold statement, but like I'm closer to that individual, but I don't want to always have the spotlight on me. It's a little weird, to be like, I'm definitely not made for Hollywood or anything like that. So it was nice to have, but it's definitely not something I would want all the time because that's a lot of pressure to have put on your shoulders. Like I noticed this past semester, I was kind of like mentally psyched myself out. Like, oh gosh, I have all these things on my shoulders now. Like I can't just be a regular student and go to school. I have to be, living up to this example of what all these awards are behind me. And then I just had a mental check and said, no, like that's not at all what it is. So kind of like stage fright when you're trying to write a paper.
Speaking of writing a paper, you had to submit a personal statement to UPCEA to be considered for this award.
Right.
I was reading it, and normally whenever you submit some sort of personal statement, it's very, God, what's the term? Usually they're well crafted. Not to say yours wasn't well crafted. I was going to say,
like, is there something wrong with no. Dominic?
No, nothing wrong. I mean, you did have some grammatical and syntax there. all jokes aside, you, in your submission, you wrote about something that was pretty personal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean very personal, in such a very vulnerable yet bold, profound statement. Why this story? Why did you decide to do that?
So what's the statement that you're talking about?
Do you not remember the work of art?
It was a 3-page paper. I don't know which part you're talking about, just so I know how to answer your question.
Of course. You wrote about, before starting this incredible academic journey, I sat down with my 9-year-old daughter, Trinity, and explained that UVA has an incredible program for me to complete my degree. As life does come with its share of challenges, some may be more monumental than others. In 2014, my daughter and I overcame a life-changing traumatic event as a result of domestic violence. What made you do that?
So part of the submission is you have to paint the whole picture. You have to give, you're not just a number. You're not just your grade. You're not just your GPA. You're a whole person. So as adults, when we're in school, as a non-traditional student, we have to give the whole story. And since UVA and a lot of the people behind the scenes know my story because we've done interviews, multiple articles have been published. People want to hear that. And typically, and I know we weren't going to really talk about the statistics, but not really the statistics, but when you go through domestic violence, there's almost like this shadow over a person, making them with this idea that you're not a good person. You must have done something to deserve this. I've actually had people ask me, well, what did you do to make him so bad? But that's also the ignorance that was in the state that I lived in. So, other things that I've read through before I became a mom is single parents, especially single mothers. Typically, their children are not going to be successful, that they're going to live in poverty, that they're not going to have a healthy life, all the things that we talk about in our classes. And that's just, one of those stereotypes that are meant to be broken. And I am a very fierce, determined, I don't usually throw this out there, Scorpio, that when you do wrong by me, or if you hurt me or my child, or you put her in harm's way, you have to deal with the consequences. And after that, was ironed out with the courts, I had to figure out how to restart my life, like what the direction is. I was in school to be a chiropractor, so I had to take everything in my clinical background and then shift to administrative side, because safety was way more important to me than a degree.
I want to know what that was like. Walk me through you basically restarting your life. How did that happen?
So the irony is, I knew, when I was sitting at the OBGYN office while I was pregnant, I was looking through a magazine, and I saw, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. You can do coding from home and have a remote position. I had no idea what coding was, because I've only been, on the receiving end of the data that, coders put in. So I always had that in the back of my head. So when that happened, I just started looking up, okay, what are some programs I can do to brush up on billing and coding? So I did. I found, I think, a school in Colorado that was a self-paced school, paid for it. It was supposed to be a 12-month school. I think I had it done in 4 months. And then when I moved back to Virginia, I talked to a recruiter who is like at a coffee shop event for Centera, and showed her my resume, and she said, "Oh, well, if since you have this coding experience and this billing experience, you need to get your credentials as a CPC through AAPC. It's the credentialing board." I said, "Oh, I had no idea that was a thing. Okay, I'll go take care of that." And then I did that. I sold my TV because I had moved, back here. I didn't want to take money from my parents, even though I was like living with them to like help take care of my mom and my dad. I had a brand new TV. I sold it, got just enough to pay for the test, and then studied for it, and then took the test and passed it the first time. Apparently it's a test that, like people fail several times, because it's pretty challenging. And then it took 2 years for me to get my foot in the door at Centera, and it's been almost 9 years in August. It'll be 9 years, my anniversary.
Congrats.
Thanks.
What made you want to go back to school?
It's unfinished business. Like, in my 20s, I was I was married to someone, not her, her biological person. But I was married and followed his Navy career around, and never had the opportunity for myself to like be in one place for more than 2 years to finish my degree. So I knew it was just something I had to get done. I know, like, I'm the youngest of 4, so my siblings all have their degree, and my brother has his master's. So it just, coming from a family where getting your degree is important, it was just something I had to finish. And then I also knew that to move up at work or in any healthcare organization, you need a degree. At this point in the game, you need at least a bachelor's, if not a master's, depending on how high you want to go. So, yeah. Now, Dominic, I know you have more questions than this.
I'm thinking. That is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people who go to school, people who are fresh out of high school, and you're basically expected to have life figured out before you can even drink alcohol legally. But I can't imagine the amount of pressure that it must be for someone who has gone through some pretty significant life events, has a child, is a single mom, and is deciding to pursue a bachelor's. Even if it's part-time, that just, as little classes as we take, it is not part-time. It's another full-time job.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to imagine how you're able to do it.
Well, the benefit is I'm single, so I don't have to worry about, a relationship over my head, because I hate to say it, no shade against men, but, I can't do a relationship with someone who wants to be texting 100 times a day like they're in high school. Like, I actually do have a life. So it makes it a lot easier when you're single. Your social life is very low because I'm not 21 and clubbing. I'm taking this time around to go to school extremely serious. And something I know, like looking through some of the things that I've talked about in past interviews or written about, this is something I'm taking, the time that I'm doing for school is taking away time from my daughter. So if I'm going to be doing that, and she's been along for the ride for, since 2022. So I better get the grades that I need to, because why would I take away time from my child if I'm not going to give it my 100%? Like I've had like people have approached me about like maybe going to be a practice manager, which I do not want to do at all by any stretch. I've been that already. That's a 40 to 80 hour a week job. And that takes a very special kind of person to do that, because I don't want to leave my daughter until she is maybe in high school or in college, when I can maybe go back into the office. You know, like kids when they're this young, not that she's as young as she was when I started. It's just not, you know, she needs to have that balance.
Yeah, you're very thoughtful in a way that you consider pretty much every single variable. And I really appreciate and admire that about you, because it takes a lot of strength to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We touched a little bit on your experience with intimate partner violence, and how in the world do you go from that to just how do you pick yourself up like that?
I mean, when there's nobody there, then you have to. That you don't get the choice to not pick yourself up when you have a small child relying on you. Like that's not, you know, it's not a syndicate TV show. I don't want to name drop, you know, because this is a podcast, but you're not on camera. You're not fighting with a judge. You're not doing any of that. Like this is real life. And, you know, there's just no room for failure. When you're raising a child, there is absolutely no room for failure. And if you make mistakes, that's fine. You know, that's okay. It's going to happen. But you have to do everything that you can to give that person that, you know, she came from me. She was a gift from God. I prayed for her for a very long time. Yeah. And I wasn't going to cry, but, you know.
Was there a time where you just wanted to give up?
You know, the closest I came to not really giving up was when I was shortly after we moved in with my parents. You know, I was up late. We were sharing a room. She was fast asleep, and I had a conversation with God, like, am I the right person for her? I don't have a job. I can't seem to get a job to save my life. Maybe she's better off going to my sister. And almost instantly I had a voice in my head, not that I'm mentally unwell. I had a voice in my head saying, absolutely not. You need to get rid of that thought immediately. You are what she needs. And I said, yes, sir. Okay, God, got it. Like that's whether it's God or, you know, who knows? Past relatives, I don't know, but someone shook me down to my spirit, like through the core. And I said, okay, got it. Noted. Not that I was contemplating, you know, SI or anything like that, because that's not, I love living. I'm going to be dragging my feet, or what's the saying, you know, like you're going to be like so old, but like partying until you get into the grave or something like that. There's some funny saying out there where, you know, like I'm going to be going in with stretch marks and wrinkles and stuff like that. I'm not going to be going in with, you know, Botox and plastic, because I want to be living life and enjoying myself and living all the way to the end. You know, maybe I'll be 99 or 100, you know, but I want to live a very long life just so I can see Trinity grow up. And maybe if she has kids, if that's what she decides to do as an adult, you know. Because life is amazing. Like people are just so stuck in this doom scroll mentality, and then kind of bring it out into the real world. And there's just so much anger out there. It's just, you know, life is pretty awesome.
I wasn't going to mention this, but some context for the listeners. We agree on a lot. However, we have very different views about how we see the world, especially sociopolitically. One thing I really appreciate about you is that we're able to sit down and have a conversation and not be grabbing for each other's necks.
I know.
It's like very, that's just something that we're missing out on today. Yeah, this is my intention with this podcast is to be very apolitical. But when I initially started podcasts, when I initially started Scrub Talk, it was because the temperature in the room was just so hot and unbearable. And especially when it comes to healthcare nowadays, there's just so many different opinions on how we deliver care. And it was really, there was a lot of perspective that just kind of hit me when we started doing violence against healthcare workers. And we started murdering CEOs of healthcare companies.
Yep.
And so hopefully people will be able to listen to this. We haven't had to disagree much yet, but you are a fascist. I hope you know that. Just want you to know that. But you have a very unique perspective, and I really do appreciate that you're able to hold more than one truth at once, because not many people are doing that today.
Yeah.
You've mentioned your faith a couple of times. What role has that played in your life?
Oh, I mean, life-saving. Down to the very cell and every cell in my body.
Yeah.
Absolutely life-saving. I could go into great detail about, visions that I've had before becoming a mother. When I went through a weekend retreat when I lived in Chicago.
This retreat didn't involve wearing hoods or anything,
no,
did it? Okay. Sorry, I had to drop that. Okay.
We're not doing Edgar Allan Poe stuff.
No burning of crosses.
No.
Okay.
So it's just we went to we had a weekend retreat, an adult retreat, through the church that I was going to, and had the opportunity to be baptized again. And the water came from the Jordan River. So I chose the option. Some people chose to just, have the sign of the cross. I chose the option to be completely doused in the water, head to toe, which has been done a couple times, but not too many times. And I believe there's maybe 12 people in the room, 12 to 18. So that was a very profound and life-changing moment. To give you a little detail. So is it the oldest part of the, it's where the retreat is a not a monastery, but where priests go to learn how to be, to get their education to be priests. And it is in the oldest part of the campus in a very old room. And it was, of course, Chicago during the winter, cold, dreary, overcast. And in this room, there's one stained glass window off to the side. And I knelt down on a towel. The person who's the director, overseeing, the adult faith group. So he was the one that was dousing me in water. When I knelt down, there was a sunbeam that came right through the stained glass window. I looked up, and then I saw this man transformed into Jesus, and Jesus was right in front of me and baptized me.
Wow.
And ever since then, I have had zero doubt in my faith. You cannot go through something like that and have doubt ever. And it's not like I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic high school, and it was just more of a routine formality type thing. But once I went through that, it became a much deeper understanding and how connected we are, you know. And then, of course, other circumstances, like when I did go through that traumatic event in 2014, I had maybe 30 seconds left to live because it was strangulation. So who do you call out to? I couldn't make a noise because, you know, if your airway is closed, you can't do anything. So I yelled the loudest prayer in my head, like, okay, God, I need you now. If you can't save me, at least save Trinity. And then instantly he was off of me and yelling in my face like a psychopath, but that's besides the point. You know, so there's just different moments. Yeah. And of course, when my dad passed, which probably is going to send me into tears, but, you know, like when he passed, I was the one that was holding his hand and prayed over him. And right before, you know, I looked towards the end of his bed and saw, like, through the window, a very bright light, but not like sunshine light, come through his window. And I just paused because I knew that was more like the Holy Spirit, or maybe my mom who passed in 2016. Someone to come get him. Like, it's time to go home. So, yeah.
You write in your submission, life presents challenges in ways that are heartbreaking yet poetic. Of the challenges I've been met with, the loss of my dad in March is one that still comes with heartache and tears. My parents instilled value, honor, and integrity, teaching me how to steer my vessel with faith and not fear. And in the stillness of the afternoon, I held his hand and told him that we're okay. It's time to go home to be with Mom.
Yep. Yeah. So a funny story. We had Pandora playing, because he liked Billy Joel and Neil Diamond and the Beatles, or not really the Beatles, Beach Boys. So, I've never been in the room with someone passes, but when he did, I swear to God, I could feel his spirit just dancing, happy, free, and somehow controlling the radio, because we started hearing a lot of his favorites. And then almost like speaking to my sister and Trinity and myself through the TV that had Pandora on it. So if people who are out there listening think that there's nothing after death, then you have to really rethink. Wait, this is supposed to be something fun and like uplifting.
Oh my God. Yeah, I've been thinking about grief a lot lately.
Yeah.
You have a story that is rarely told.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's told, it's because there's usually a sad ending that has transpired. You've got such a
an amazing life that you seem to be living.
Mm-hmm.
And you're very resilient. And sometimes I feel like working in the field that we work in,
Mm-hmm.
it can be so hard to, it's just hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you're a frontline worker.
Yeah.
So it's hard because you can get attached to patients. And even though you may want them to have a winning story, it just may not be in their cards. And that can be hard when you take that home and yell at BAM.
That little piece of shit. Oh my gosh. Dude.
That's his cat, by the way.
Yeah, my cat Bam. I love him to death. He is not your average cat. And that's the funny thing. I always had so many misconceptions about cats because you always think of cats as these like really moody, kind of like passive aggressive.
Yes.
Serve me.
Yes.
But he's like a golden retriever. He talks to me a lot. So I told you I rushed home because I need to go get my stuff so we can record. He was rolling over on his stomach.
Oh my goodness.
Just meowing really loud and just talking at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, dude, you are so adorable, but I need you to get the heck off of my cart. He just was so relentless. He just wanted to talk to me. That's all he does, by the way. He just like sits next to me. Sometimes I'll be like deep in focus, right? And then next thing you know, because there's like a little stand next to me, I'll just hear him like screech, meow, like, and I'm just like, I'm go up. And then he like looks at me and I'm just like, what the heck are you doing there? Get away from me. He's done that more than his fair share of times. But yeah, just going back though, I did want to kind of like figure this out alongside you. Like, how in the world did you, just like with everything you've been through, how in the world did you decide that, yeah, I want to still work in a business that is about caring about people?
Well, I mean, gosh, like I went through school to be a massage therapist. So that is like one of the positions in healthcare where you were giving your all, in a legal environment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So like people come in broken. Like I've had, not to like get into details, but I've had patients who have gone through like a car accident and need work so that they can recover. So you put your heart into it to make sure that that person gets better. So that pretty much goes for, I'd say, a lot of people in healthcare because they go to school to learn a knowledge, learn a skill, and try to help other people. Like one of the things I've always believed is like the leadership style that I have is more of a servant leader because I want to serve others. And then after taking our last leadership class, I also realized that I was more servant and transformational because of the simple fact that I want to not only help others, but help them live to their fullest potential. Because I know for myself in past positions, I have not had managers who want that. They are more like, how dare you outshine me? I need you off my team, which is really in poor taste because when you're in a leadership role, you should be earning your position because of the exemplary work that you're doing, not who you're hanging out with outside of work, to get promoted. And that happens a lot, whether it's healthcare or, finance or whatever the industry is.
Yeah, some healthcare leaders just suck. It seems like a lot of the people who go into leadership have a lot of ego and baggage that they bring with them.
Yes. Yep.
And God, it's just really frustrating. That's all I can say about it.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's, I mean, if you're trying to move into a position because of the money or because you need to have more power, you're really in the wrong position. Maybe go into politics. You know.
Can I interrupt you for a second? That's really interesting because that's something that I hear a lot of people say about doctors.
Right.
You don't go into it for the money.
Right.
And I personally feel like, as someone who's going to be a physician someday, that people need to stop saying that statement about people who, like me, who are going into the field, and they need to start saying a little bit more about the people signing our checks.
I mean, I understand like providers needing to get a higher salary because their student loans are really, really high. But there's also liability that they're carrying because when you're managing patients' health, there is a massive liability that goes along with it. And the higher your skill level, like anesthesia or cardiothoracic or whatever it is, that would be more risk involved with whatever you're doing. That is why they make the money that they make, not necessarily to take home a check that's $400,000 a year, as an example. It's because they have to pay a lot in liability insurance unless they work for maybe, you know, a healthcare organization that covers it for them. And then maybe they wouldn't get paid as much because, you know, the benefit is being paid by their employer. You know, I'm tired of like seeing people in leadership, and I know we've talked about this before, when they go into a healthcare organization and they have an MBA, but they have zero healthcare experience. You have to know like what you're ordering or asking people to do. You have to have some sort of understanding what it is that you're asking before you like roll out these different demands or requests or however you want to take it. You know.
That brings me to a very interesting point here, because our professor and program advisor, he is an economist, and he always likes to push back on us when we talk about money, because he's one of those blood-sucking MBAs, by the way. We love Mark. We love Professor Arath. How in the world do you lead an organization with experience in healthcare, but no practicality or discipline financially? How do we balance that?
Well, I mean, depending on how high up you are in the organization, you would have someone who would have the finance knowledge. Like for me, for example, I work with the revenue cycle team, management, whatever you want to call it. That is directly involved with money. Do I have an MBA? No. Do I want to get an MBA? No, thank you. Simply because I don't want to be paying that kind of tuition because it's really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not something I'm driven to do. I think I'm more along the lines of like policy change. I think after we talked recently, I was thinking like, do I really want the healthcare administration degree? Do I want to be like dual mastered with healthcare administration and public health? I don't know. That's a conversation for over the summer that I need to figure out, you know, like, cause there's just so many things involved with healthcare, and having gone through what I've gone through, it's different. You see a completely different side of the world. From the legal side, how things are not handled with the utmost care. Not necessarily that it's the judge's fault, because he was a level of mad I've never seen someone sitting on a bench when I gave my victim statement. because it's in those circumstances, a lot of times the harsher sentencing comes when there's a fatal statistic and not someone who survived. And things that I've gone through that we've talked about before as a patient, having providers like having a little bit more tact or decorum when it comes to
we love that word, decorum.
When it comes to like, how do you talk to your patient? Maybe don't minimize their experience and try to cover up what they went through with antidepressants, or push that like you're pushing some sort of medication that you don't want. As someone, when you're processing that level of trauma, you do not want to mute your emotions, because it can just sneak up and find you many years later. So how do we train our providers to have more trauma experience? There's a word, trauma something.
Trauma-informed care.
Yeah, that. Yes, from our women's health class.
That I got an A in, by the way.
You got an A in.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I got like a 99.9, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where you have to like patients are not a number, right? Providers are also not a number. I think if we just look at it in a little bit more human approach, treat each other like a holistic individual instead of like, oh, I have to get you out of here in 15 minutes because that's the speed of seeing my patients. I have to see 6 in a certain amount of time frame. Like that's unfortunately how healthcare is driven today.
We're all kind of screwed when it comes to this healthcare system. There's so much that we have to deal with. It's initially why I did this program, because I feel like I heard a lot about my family members struggling with assimilating into the system. As part of when my granddad retired pretty early. Like, I think he was 60 when he retired. Most physicians are still practicing into their 80s.
Right.
And he did that because he did not want to deal with all the bureaucracy and all the rapid changes that were happening in the private sector. He just wasn't going to deal with it. So, yeah, just medicine is not what I grew up understanding. And I imagine it's pretty much the same thing for you too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a lot to sit with.
So even though like there might be this idea that we're screwed, we're really not. We just have to be a little bit more vocal.
Yeah.
You can tell patients, to be an advocate for yourself, but we should also be advocate, for working in healthcare. Like the whole point of going through this program is to move into some sort of leadership position, right? Whether you're a physician or being bossed around by a physician named Dr. Ramos.
That sounds good. Wait, can you say that one more time? Just one more time for Mike.
But it's just one of those things where you have to find ways to make a positive change, and then learn to work with each other.
Yeah.
Not have the negative mentality of, we have a sinking ship. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We're not on the Titanic. We're not, doing a reverse to hit the iceberg again. It's just, I think a lot of times people don't realize that healthcare is also driven by decisions in Congress. It doesn't matter who is POTUS, because that's how politics work. Not to get into the politic tangent, but that's like a lot of things are passed down, approved by Congress with Medicare, like telehealth. Every year we've been waiting right up to the deadline. Like, okay, are they going to extend the ability to have telehealth visits outside of behavioral health? And that's all Congress. That's all they're the ones that are making the decisions. So we just have to kind of like do the best that we can. And then other things that I've noticed, especially being on this side, is that there are opportunities when they are like revising CMS and when they're revising a lot of different things within coding and compliance, and what are they going to allow this time? Because, every year things are approved or sometimes they're deleted, like different coding is deleted. There is time for the public to be able to share their opinion. And that's where, as healthcare providers or maybe administrative people, have that opportunity to share their concern over something being approved or denied. So it's a lot deeper than I think probably the regular non-clinician patient understands.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point. And we both have said that we don't want to get political. But when I think about it, just like more broadly, you can't have a healthcare system without politics.
Right.
And I think that's one of the first lessons we learned in like our management class, like how healthcare overlaps with so many industries. It's not just a medical industry, it's a tech industry, it's a environmental industry, it's a government industry, which is really, I don't know. Because I imagine if like we're sitting in a Starbucks right now, I imagine you can also say like, oh, well, the service industry is like that. But even then, I mean, a bad review against a barista isn't as impactful as a bad review against a physician or a nurse.
Right.
And that's really interesting to think about.
Especially when you have a survey to fill out every office visit.
Yeah. You rely on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like our life force nowadays. And just, it kind of scares me sometimes because now I'm going to have to be worrying about that when I start practicing. I have to worry about people's feelings.
Well, yeah, you do have to worry about feelings when you're a doctor.
Yeah. Baja,
unless you're like the highest, most sought after physician that you can just walk around the hospital floor and be all gruff and grumbly.
That's going to be me. No, I mean, I definitely feel weighed more than I am hard on people. But at the same time, it's just incredibly just difficult to kind of sit with. And yeah, I just have to give myself some grace though. And I know that's really important. I am curious about, you mentioned the career path you're thinking about right now, and you want to go into some level of leadership that's beyond practice management. What is like the ideal leadership position that you would strive for early on? Okay, like we know like hospital CEO is possible, president, vice president, yeah, but like what's like the first position you'd like to step into?
Oh, well, I mean, a director would be nice. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, like, when we have our degree in hand, it opens up a lot of doors, not just manager, but like there are director positions that are posted currently that with a bachelor's that I would qualify for. I don't know exactly what I want to do overall, but I know.
Well, I guess like in a more broad sense, I don't think people realize how many different, I don't even know what categories of leadership there are.
Honestly, I do enjoy like working in the revenue cycle. So if I was a director in the revenue cycle department, that would be pretty cool because there's a lot of different things that go into it. It's not just numbers and it's not just pushing, claims out the door. It's also addressing issues maybe to help providers or operation, like director of operations would be pretty, that would be a great job to have as well. Like, especially if overseeing like, I don't know, cardiothoracic or general surgery or something like that, because those are all things that I enjoy, like from the quality and the coding side, because they're just very, very unique. Very not that like every part of healthcare is special, but to me, it's like seeing what surgeons are able to do when they save lives is just. There are moments I've actually stood up and clapped for the note that I'm reading, for an op note, and I'm being very serious, because it's like, not that you're reading like a drama series, but when you see someone and they're crashing for whatever the reason is, and you just say, come on, please, like get there in time, get the stent in, or maybe get them to the OR and have them, do a cabbage or something like that, like whatever the procedure is called for. And then you see that the doctor gets in there, they're, do what they need to do, and the patient comes out and they feel great. It's absolutely amazing. That's what humans are able to do when they go to college.
I'm very interested in what you just said, because you described a scene almost perfectly out of a movie, yet it was based off of a note you were auditing.
Yeah. Because that's how it is. Like Widowmaker, Widowmakers used to be detrimental.
What's
right?
a Widowmaker?
A heart attack that has no survivability. And now, like, you're able to get, if you see the patient within, I think it's like half an hour or 90 minutes. I'm not really too sure which one it is. I'm not the doctor, obviously, but, physicians are able to get in there, like especially cardiologists are able to have the patient come in within a certain time frame. And I'm really sure it's like 90 minutes. Pretty certain it is. And then, do what they need to do as a cardiologist. And then the patient is good. Sometimes they go home in a couple of days.
Are you privy to the statistics that Centera has about their door-to-balloon times?
Oh, at one point when I was working with cardiology, I was.
Okay. I'm just curious. I wonder like how, like on the coding side, if you're supposed to be aware of that stuff. That's all.
No, you're not. You just basically code whatever the note is in front of you. But for me, I always like to know that stuff because it makes my job more interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah. Coding is very interesting. I'm encountering just a tinge of that in my current role. I absolutely hate it. And now I know why providers are just so eager to offload that part of their job. I don't think people realize that, how much work goes into putting together an office note. Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to school to be a coder. You're going to school to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Your primary focus is to be a doctor. But for the compliance standpoint, you have to have a good note that's going to support what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize that we were going to talk about work.
Yeah, sorry. It just kind of flowed in naturally to it all. I mean, hey guys, it's Dominic.
And Maureen.
An average of 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the United States. More than 12 million men and women over the course of a single year. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men aged 18 and older in the United States have been the victim of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Everyone deserves a healthy, safe relationship. If you or someone you know needs support, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is here 24/7. Call 1-800-799-SAFE 7233. Or text START, START, to 88788 or visit thehotline.org. You are not alone. All right, we're back because Maureen so rudely had to make me pause this recording. No, I'm kidding. Nature calls. You've had like so much
Yeah.
going on in your life. And I mean, I just can't imagine what that must feel like, going into the healthcare space or as a patient.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like really curious about, what has like gone on that has made you feel like a number or like a statistic in the way that you phrased it.
There's a lot of things that I could talk about. I think the one that stands out the most is when I was going through, so I have also a certification as a integrative nutrition health coach.
Mm-hmm.
When I was going through that program, we were talking about vitamin D deficiencies and what to look for. There's a lot of symptoms that go along with that, by the way, like a ton. And living in the climate, if you're not like living in Florida year round, and if you live basically north of the Mason-Dixon line, I believe it is, you're going to see some sort of like drop in your vitamin D, especially during the winter months, because you don't have the sun exposure. But also when you are working inside and you're not, like a construction worker who's outside or doing paving roads or something, you're also going to see a drop in vitamin D. Vitamin D is really important. It's not just a regular vitamin. It controls a lot in your body. So it also plays into your autoimmune system. So when I was going through this class or this program, this is like shortly after, I'd say within 8 months, maybe, after the domestic violence took place, I realized that there is a possibility that I have a deficiency. I should probably go find a, PCP to run some labs for me. And then I found someone, went into the office, explained the situation. And rather than listen, she told me, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to order your labs like maybe in 4 months. You need to be on an antidepressant. And I said, that's jumping the gun. Why would you say that I need to be on an antidepressant rather than running labs? Because the symptoms that I have, which was like a very long list, pointed to having a deficiency. Oh, well, you've been through that trauma, the domestic violence. So you need to be on an antidepressant. And I said, well, with all due respect, I would rather have the labs drawn. That's a much easier thing to address than starting the process of taking a medicine that I'm not asking for, because that is not how I'm going to heal myself. I'm not going to recover from what I went through and also be a present mother if I'm going to be on something that's muting my emotions. So rather than listen, she gave me her resume. And we talked about women's health, right? But we don't talk about how some women are as physicians and how they, I want to say mansplain, but women-splain, right? Well, I went to school here in this country, and I went to school here, and I have my residency here, blah, blah, blah. So I say what you do. I'm not going to do the labs until like the next 3 to 4 months. And I said, okay, well, congratulations on your education. I'm very happy for you. I don't care about your resume. If you cannot do what I'm asking as your patient, I will go somewhere else. I'm done with this, visit. I'm going to leave. Have a great day. Please do not have your staff call me to reschedule. And then when I left, I told them, your doctor does not listen. Please do not schedule me. Do not call me for rescheduling. None of it. And then I'd say with the same, like that same week, I came across someone, I think it was on Facebook, actually, like how, Facebook ads pop up sometimes. So I found an integrative medical doctor and made a call to the office and said, hey, can I get seen? And I told him everything. He said, of course you have a vitamin D deficiency. Look at where we live. Of course I'm going to do that first. And of course I'm going to run an autoimmune panel on you. And of course I'm going to do this and this. That only makes sense. And he told me, you have PTSD. It's natural for you to do what you're doing. It's natural for you to have the emotional experience that you're having, and you're going about it the right way. And lo and behold, my vitamin D was a 16.9.
Whoa.
That's very low. And low on a lab is, you shouldn't be below 32, I think is what it is now. Ideally, a doctor might say you should be around 50, although I think I've seen it go up to 100 as being in the normal range. So I started, fueling my body with a high dose of vitamin D. And then within 4 days, I started feeling great. Fatigue was gone. The coldness was gone. Feeling like I was depressed, even though I wasn't depressed, that was gone. And that's all there's a lot of things that point to deficiencies, like your symptoms and stuff like that. So, it's just, that's the one that stands out the most for sure.
How did it feel for your provider to essentially validate you?
I think I was crying, if I remember correctly. And he was just super happy, not attached to a hospital system, had his own independent practice. He, held the credential as a medical doctor. He's able to prescribe things if people needed it. I remember his office had salt lamps. When he walked in, he definitely brought his culture from India over and integrated that in his practice. So it was wonderful to see. It was definitely the point that I needed. And then he also worked with chiropractors in the area. I know your feelings about that, but
Voodoo magic is what I think about chiropractors.
So it was, that's the person that I needed at that point in my life. And, he's the one that helped me. I tested for Hashimoto's. So that's the thing with trauma, is that it can manifest and express itself in so many different ways. And for me, it decided to turn into an autoimmune condition to attack my thyroid. So it's different when you have an autoimmune condition, because the generic Synthroid is not really designed for someone who has autoimmune, because there's different things that are, involved, different labs or lab values that are involved, different hormones.
Do you feel like you would be where you are now without that provider?
No. I think had that provider not stepped in, had our paths not crossed, I don't know what I would have done. Possibly go to urgent care, I think probably would have been the next option, which that's not what urgent care is really designed for, as we all know. So, honestly, I thought it was a sign from above, that the same day that I came home frustrated, there was this ad that popped up on Facebook. Although we know now that sometimes those things listen, right? So, it's timing. The timing was perfect.
Yeah. We've had a pretty heavy discussion today. We've touched a lot of very, very deep
And also, I think very timely topics.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say first and foremost, this is how our conversations usually go over the phone, where there's banter. I'm called a fascist, things like that. But at the end of the day, we have a very good friendship. Like you're more like a brother to me than my own brothers, but that's neither here nor there. I think there's times that we've been on the phone for 3 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
Sometimes after class, because it's a venting session after class, depending on which class it is and which student may have ruffled your feathers. But I mean, like for me personally, like, and I know I have said this before, I've said this to different audiences, that the thing that I went through and what I went through to protect my daughter, because she was not even one, it's not something that defines me. It is a part of me. It happened. It's part of my history. I took it more as God's not going to put this in my life with thinking that I'm going to fail. Like he's not going to put something in my way if it's not meant to help me grow. So, I think there's like something I read the other day where sometimes people get mad when they hear someone say, "Oh, you went through this very painful journey and it was meant to help you grow as a person." And then it's almost like this bitterness of, no, it didn't. It was the determination to get my foot in front of me that made me the strong person who I am today. But that's kind of looking at it in a way that you're missing the whole point if you look at it that way. Because ultimately, like as we know, like my faith is very strong. So I know God knows what my journey is. He knows what my path is. And there's no way that I would have faced this challenge without knowing that I was going to use it for something good. The sheer determination that I have isn't just to write a book about my experience or have that book also be a guide to help other people, because 1 in 3 women have experienced some sort of domestic violence. And it's not just to maybe be a public speaker, but it's also one day to stand in front of Congress and have a very open, candid discussion, because it's, a part of mental health, whether it's the offender who has a mental health issue or the survivor who ends up with a mental health problem as a result. Complex PTSD is recognized in other countries. In the United States, it's not. It's on the ICD-11 for other countries, but our system is still ICD-10 based, so it still falls under PTSD. And it's not something that's always going to be treated by medication. It's something that there are like different therapies that are holistic to help people. So I guess your question was, what else do I want people to know about me? It's just, I'm a very real person. I'm extremely resilient, and there is nothing I would allow to stand in my way, to take care of my daughter, to better our lives, and maybe one day change the world to make it a better place.
Well, you're already changing the world.
Mm-hmm.
So don't disappoint.
I think there was something that Mark said that I'm in that what I sent you, a force to be reckoned with. And there is, like that movie, like the Wonder Woman movie, like the more recent ones, not the 1980s, Linda Carter version, or I think that's her name. But that's something like that imagery is what stuck in my head for a very long time to help me become stronger. And then it's the, students like yourself, the faculty, our professors pouring into me and just reaffirming that, no, you are actually valued. Because that's the thing that domestic violence takes away from you is your value, your self-esteem. That's probably why I am happily single, because I don't want to have that vulnerability with someone to give them the opportunity to say something negative. Because my reaction now would be probably not patient at all.
I want to do something fun for this episode. We're going to do some a lightning round. Okay.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. Do I need to explain it to you as a person who got an A in a in a women's health class? I'm just going to ask you just a series of questions, and you answer them as it's like speed dating, kind of. I don't know.
I've never done that before, but
okay.
One of my friends has encouraged me to do it. I told her, yeah, but you're in your 30s and I'm 50. Mm-hmm. I think I've aged out of speed dating.
There's no time like the present, in my opinion. Okay, this is gonna be fun. All right, first question: coffee or tea?
Oh, that's tough. Both. Can I choose both?
Sure.
Both.
Okay. Texting or calling?
Oh, well, texting at first, but it eventually leads to calling. I know this is supposed to be one answer versus another. Yeah. Calling. Wait, no. Text first before you call, unless you're Dominic Ramos' future physician, then he can call.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Tacos or pizza?
Oh, tacos all the way.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Sometimes. Yes.
Ew.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Ugh. All right. Yeah. No, I don't like these answers. Okay. Action or rom-coms?
Action all the way.
Cooking at home or ordering takeout?
Both. I think it depends on school in session versus not.
Yeah. Okay, this is not a speed question. We are a health podcast. Let us see. I don't want to ask that question. I don't want to ask that question.
Oh, these sound like really good questions to ask.
I don't want to ask this question. Are there any health or wellness resources you love? Yeah, freaking voodoo magic chiropractors. No, I already answered that question for you already, so no. Actually, this is a good one. What's your favorite way to keep fit and active?
Well, walking on the beach would be ideal when it's not 100 degrees out.
Yeah. We've had a lot of that this week.
Yeah. Yes, that was a struggle this week.
Unbearable.
Mm-hmm.
It's Mental Health May.
Mm-hmm.
What does mental health mean to you?
That's a big question, Dominic.
It is a very big question, but I want you to kind of like cut it down a little bit.
Mental health. What does that mean to me? I would say you have to have some sort of self-awareness so that you can treat your emotional side of life. Like, don't get so stressed out that you're going to fall apart and crumble in the corner. Find ways to relieve your stress first before you get to that point.
What's the best decision that you have ever made for your health journey? Other than the voodoo magic practitioners.
Somehow you knew I was going to say that, didn't you? I don't know, Dominic. It all goes back to that one chiropractor that I saw after I was in a car accident.
Oh, fine. We can talk about the voodoo magic malpracticers. Go on. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely having someone open my eyes to seeing a chiropractor.
It's not that I don't have anything against chiropractors.
I know. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. I just think that they should not be prescribing or pontificating or opining on anything that is out of their scope of practice, which is cracking backs. That's about it, you know?
So that can go for anyone in the healthcare world, right? Maintain your scope of practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that word.
Adjusting, not cracking. We're not eggs, right? Adjustments are healthy.
Yeah.
When you do it the right way, you know, get an x-ray first so that something isn't missed because you can't feel everything.
I have a story for you about a voodoo magic practitioner that I think you'll appreciate. I used to volunteer with my granddad at these health fairs for veterans. I was essentially functioning like a medical assistant at the time. I was helping this one veteran. His name was Charlie. I was helping him through his intake. And I walked him through the health fair. He saw my grandma who took his vitals. He saw a bunch of other doctors. He saw my granddad. And mind you, this guy, Charlie, he was a Marine. 6'2", very stern, black gentleman. Very nice. He was suffering from, I don't even know what it was, but it was definitely like cervical spine pain. We had a chiropractor there offering adjustments to people. He went to go see the chiropractor, forgot his name. He, did his whole, ritual ceremony, voodoo magic that I talk about. And I watched and, before that, he was just going, oh man, oh, I didn't like that. But when he had his neck twisted, I don't know the appropriate terminology, but when he had his neck adjusted in one direction, this man's eyes lit up. It was like as if all the pain, all the baggage that he had been carrying was just like suddenly like lifted away from him. And I watched that man break down in tears. And it was just so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that moment taught me, damn, how the hell did this guy learn this voodoo magic, But really, it taught me how important this work is and how much I want to be there to be a part of that. I don't care what capacity it's in. That just taught me a lot. So, yeah, I do think voodoo has a place in medicine.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you go to Nolans. There's definitely a lot of voodoo down there.
Yeah. My last question for you.
when you finally are on the TED stage giving your TED talk, what is the message that you want to leave your audience with?
I've never thought of that. That's a good question, Dominic. I would say probably two things. The first would be, when you have Jesus in your heart, you can overcome any challenge that's in front of you, because that's your faith that's carrying through whatever is in the way. And the second would be an act of violence, whether it's on you as an adult or as a child, does not define who you are. It doesn't mean that you have to live constantly in the state of remembering. You can heal. There are ways to heal. You can get help. There's plenty of ways to get help. And certainly the biggest one, especially for domestic violence, it's okay to say, no, this is not okay. You cannot do this to me. You cannot do this to our children, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times women go back.
Yeah.
And when women go back, unfortunately, that's when statistics go from surviving to being fatal. And that's something I never understood before I went through what I went through. I never understood how someone could go back. But once you've been there, it makes sense when you have your livelihood stripped from you. You have your family and friends. You essentially become isolated. Oftentimes the offender is a manipulator and a narcissist. There's a lot of gaslighting involved. So it's just learning how to identify those things so you don't repeat the same decision or find the same kind of person that would hurt you. And, you're not necessarily a victim. You survive something that's traumatic. So learn to live and embrace life and live life to the fullest, because it's not meant to be sad. Something that I read recently, which is a reminder, is that, the same God who gives you the sunsets and the sunrises and dolphins, or maybe your favorite dog, or Bam for you, is also the same God that designed you in his image. And there's no such thing as someone who's perfect. Even Dominic Ramos, future physician, is not perfect. We're all made in his image. And that's something perfectly imperfect, striving to be the best version of ourselves.
Maureen, thank you so much for sitting with me.
You're welcome, Dominic.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Scrub Talk. Scrub Talk is produced by me, Dominic Ramos. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to leave a rating and review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. A quick note before you go. Scrub Talk is intended for informational and educational purposes only. Nothing you hear on this show should be taken as medical advice, and nothing here establishes a patient-provider relationship. For anything medical, please consult with a qualified clinician who knows your situation. I'll see you on the next one.